Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Max and this is the Harley Benton Dullahan detailed review part 2. Yes, both guitars, the FT version and the AT version, in one video, because they are very similar, and even though they had individual part 1 videos, everything we're going to be talking about today applies to both of them. You might have already watched the part 1 videos on the FT or the AT version. If you haven't, I'll give you links to them in that corner. Maybe it makes sense to watch them first because all the facts are in those videos. And today I'll give you a few more little details, answer your questions you've left to me in the comments under the first 2 videos, and express my personal opinion about this too. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to my Instagram yet, I'd really appreciate if you do, because that's where you can find beautiful guitar close-ups, quick shootouts and demos on many different things, as well as regular updates on what's going on here and what I'm currently working on. Alright, now back to the video. Here's the list of guitars I reviewed on this channel so far and their penalty points, and as you can see, both Dullahans are on the top of the list with only 2 penalty points. And those penalties are not really important, they don't really affect the playability or functionality or anything actually. So what does that mean? Are these guitars perfect? Well, they're good, but they're definitely not flawless. Are Dullahans better than all other guitars on the list? Not necessarily. More on that later in this video. As I've mentioned in the first part of this video, at the moment there are 3 Dullahan models, but one of the most frequently asked questions, or actually comments, under my first video was that you guys wanted a 7-string. Well, I heard that we may be seeing something new in the Dullahan lineup, maybe even this year. I don't know what it is, but what I know is that Harley Benton is listening, so let's tell them what we want in the comments below. They are reading this. Okay, let's take some more measurements. What is the total length of this guitar? Well, it definitely is the shortest guitar I've ever had because it fits onto my table entirely, which never happened before. And its total length is 80.5 centimeters, or slightly less than 2 feet 8, which is much shorter than a standard guitar. We have already talked about Roswell pickups a lot, and on this guitar we've got a standard sized pickup in the neck with 49mm and an F-spaced pickup in the bridge with 52 or 53mm between the Paul pieces. I do have a feeling that these are not the pickups that are listed in the specs for this guitar, because the specs say Alnico 5 magnets and what we have here are ceramic magnets. So I'm guessing these are not the Roswell HAF, but HAF2 pickups, which do come with ceramic magnets. Later on, we'll take one of the guitars apart and hopefully we'll find something written on the back of the pickups that will give us a little bit more information. Here's how you can tell the difference between Alnico and ceramic magnets. This is my Harley Benton Fusion 2 with Roswell HAF pickups with Alnico 5 magnets. If you look closely, you will see the magnet inside. It is bright and shiny. And the same on the other side, right there. And Alnico magnets are also conductive. Now let's take a closer look at this pickup on the Dullahan. The magnet inside of this pickup is black, which screams ceramic. And it is not conductive. Well, not really, which again looks more like a ceramic magnet. And since we're doing stuff with pickups, let's check the resistance. We've got 8.2K in the bridge and 8K exactly in the neck. Those aren't exactly the same numbers that we see listed for those pickups at the official website, but they're close enough, and no 2 pickups are exactly the same. There's always a little bit of play, so that's alright. And in the case you've missed that in the first part of this video, here is how the switching works. You can always double check it using a screwdriver. So here we've got the bridge humbucker alone, outer coil of the bridge humbucker and the inner coil of the neck pickup, both pickups, the neck pickup connected in parallel, and finally the neck humbucker. The knobs on both of my Dullahans are pretty stiff, I should say. There was a question about how this guitar feels when played like this, on the left leg, as the opposite to the standard position. Well, this kind of posture is absolutely alien to me and doesn't feel particularly good no matter what guitar I'm trying to play. But if you have a cable with an angled plug that doesn't stick out, you shouldn't be experiencing any problems. I have seen multiple reports about grounding issues with Dullahans, and today I was really surprised to find out that one of my guitars has exactly the same problem, which is the bridge is not grounded. I didn't notice that before, and it definitely didn't bother me when I was recording the track for the part 1 of this video, so let me show you how to fix this. Don't worry, it's gonna be an easy fix, we just need to remove the bridge. Okay, that was one. Now 6 more screws. So now it must be obvious for you why the bridge is not grounded, because it is painted black and there is simply no contact between this ground wire and the actual material of the base plate. As I said, it's gonna be an easy fix. Okay, that will do. That should work now. Let's put it back together. Now we're talking. Okay, one final check. Yeah, that looks much better now. Okay, moving on to the locking mechanism at the headstock. Yeah, I want to talk about it again. Functionally, it works, it keeps strings in place, no problem with that. But from the usability perspective, there is an issue. Whoa. These screws really are too small and too easy to lose, and with no replacement parts available, I see that as a problem. Just imagine you try to change a broken string while being on stage in the middle of the gig with almost no light, well, that's how I usually do that, and this thing runs away. Then you're pretty much screwed, because you're not gonna find it, no way. And without it, the string won't stay in place, so your gig is over. So I wish there was a better solution. I don't know if it exists, but here is definitely some room for improvement. Usually we talk about the setup at the very end of the video, but well, usually the setup is easy and straightforward, and it was with the original 22-fret Dullahans. With those guitars I could set the string action very low and there was still enough room for adjustment. But with this, with the updated 24-fret guitars, I kinda hit a wall. So right now, this guitar has about 1.2 mm on the first string and slightly more than 1.5 on the sixth string, which is fine because that's not too high, but the problem is that the saddles are in their lowest position and I wouldn't be able to lower the strings further even if I wanted to. Let's take a closer look at one of the saddles. Okay, here's the insert made of a softer material and it's been held in place by this tiny little screw on the side. You can also see that the insert doesn't go all the way through the saddle because the hole for it doesn't go all the way through the saddle, so when you're trying to lower the strings by rotating the insert clockwise, at some point it meets the bottom of the saddle and won't go any further. Trying to turn those inserts without a special tool is not easy. A plain screwdriver will immediately leave scratch marks, and if you use something like pliers, you can easily destroy the inserts. That is what almost happened to me a couple of times. And here's a good example. This thing is stuck there and I cannot take it out. It's too tight. Still, I cannot turn it at all. Finally. The softness of this material and the fact that the inserts have a tendency to stuck inside the saddles is exactly the reason why, in the part 1 of this video, I called this the weakest part of this guitar. But as I mentioned before, setting the string height on the original 22-fret Dullahans wasn't an issue. So what happened? What has changed? Well, unlike on the original Dullahans, where the saddles were mounted directly to the body, on this guitar they are mounted on the common base plate, and that increased the overall height of the bridge. Apparently, on some guitars at least, the neck pocket wasn't properly adjusted for that, and to compensate for the change, I have to set the saddles as low as possible to keep the strings low. And here I have to say that my guitars are from the very first updated batch with 24 frets. And indeed, some of those transitional period guitars may have this problem with a slightly taller bridge and not adjusted neck pocket. But anyhow, by now, I'm pretty sure the problem has been solved. And I'm actually waiting for a roasted Dullahan to come in a few weeks. And as soon as it gets here, I will run my regular tests and will probably give you another update on the situation. Dullahans are constantly evolving, and there may be some minor changes and improvements from batch to batch. And with these guitars, made probably in May last year, I'm definitely not up to date. And speaking of the updates, probably like many of you, I thought that the bridge was some cheapo hardware from AliExpress, but I was wrong. The bridge comes from an Australian company called Apollo Music Parts, and they have a good range of bridges, saddles and stuff for headless guitars. And the bridge we have on the Dullahan is definitely not cheap. Just one saddle costs around 40 Australian dollars, which is about 32 US dollars. So the whole bridge, 6 saddles and the base plate will cost you around 200 bucks. And yeah, there is a page dedicated to Harley Benton Dullahan at the Apollo Music Parts website. I had a chance to talk to Apollo Music Parts, and I have some intel for you about what's coming. The thread on the saddle inserts in the new bridges and new guitars will be finer for a more precise height adjustment. And now there's also a special tool that will come with the guitar that makes string height adjustments much easier than before. Who knows, maybe someday we'll see some replacement parts available, or inserts made of stainless steel or some other material. That would be great. So I can't wait until my new up-to-date Dullahan arrives. And for those of you who have the same string height adjustment problem, I found 3 solutions. My first idea was to drill a hole in the bottom of the saddle to let the insert go lower. Alternatively, taking off 1 or 1.5 millimeters of the bottom of the inserts with a file might work as well. Ultimately, I've chosen a non-destructive method, which is to shim the neck, and let me demonstrate that. Yeah, I remember we wanted to take a look at the back of the pickups. Let's do it right now. Well, surprisingly, the stickers on the bottom of the pickups still say HAF, not HAF2, even though we know that these are not the same pickups as on the Harley Benton Fusion 2. I found some pictures of HAF pickups from the bottom online, and they definitely don't look like what we have here in the Dullahan. So I assume it was a custom order of some sort. If I find any more information on these, I'll let you know in one of the future videos. Okay, are you ready for this? Watch the Harley Benton logo disappear. Surprise, surprise. What does this mean? Does this tell us that the difference between the two brands is not as dramatic as some may think? I don't know, but I'll just leave it here. Here's the back of the neck, and here's the neck pocket. I already have a couple of shims that I specifically 3D printed for a situation like this a long time ago, but any thin piece of hard material will do just fine. Okay, let's try it like this. Okay, now I will install the saddles and strings and see if that was enough. Okay, that was definitely too much, so I will use a thinner shim. Now that looks much better. Okay, now that the guitar is perfectly set, the saddles are no longer in the lowest position, and there's a little bit of room for adjustments. And I've set the string height to about 1 millimeter on the first string and about 1.5 mil on the sixth string, which is exactly how I wanted it to be, and now everything feels right. And I didn't do anything about the knot because the string height on the first fret is exactly where it is supposed to be. Speaking of my first impression on Dullahans, it was back in January 2020 that I tried them for the first time, and those were the original 22 fret models, and my first thoughts were, whoa, where's the low end? Yeah, because these guitars, they do sound and feel different to what regular guitars do, both unplugged and plugged. The second thing I've noticed was that there's somehow much more vibration coming from the body and from the neck of the guitar that you can feel compared to a regular guitar. And one more thing, Dullahans, I would say, have an unusual resonance compared to regular guitars, and there are a couple of notes somewhere in this region which sound very much different to what they usually sound on regular guitars, but I kinda like it though. One of the most popular questions sent in my first video was why, having the same pickups, do Dullahans sound so much different to the Harley Benton Fusion 2? And my guess is as good as yours. I would say missing headstock, a smaller body, a completely different bridge, and specifically the material of the inserts inside the saddles probably affects the sound in some way, and as we now know, the pickups are not the same. So these two are completely different guitars and therefore they don't sound the same. I've seen reports about some random little issues with Dullahans, however, in general, from the quality perspective, I think they are on the same level with the Harley Benton Fusion 2, which is very good. The satin finish on the FT model may be slightly inconsistent from time to time, but well, that's because it's a satin finish. But the glossy finish on the AT is very solid. At this price point, 400 euros, there is only one real competitor, which is Steinberger Spirit with its tiny body, but that is a completely different beast altogether. So if you're looking for a headless on a budget, Dullahan is a great value for money. If I had to place this guitar somewhere on the scale from a Strat to a Les Paul, I would probably put it a little bit on a Stratier side, but as always, let's just listen to all of them. With 2 humbuckers and 5 sounds, I would describe this guitar as surprisingly versatile. Could I play a gig with one of these guitars? Well, I'd love to, I'm just waiting for a gig to happen. It pretty much provides all the sounds I need. Well, no tremolo, but I can live with that. Would I recommend one of these guitars to beginners? Well, not really, unless you already play guitar for a while and your right hand works the way it is supposed to. And here's why. Look at where the bridge is located relatively to the edge of the body of this Harley Benton Fusion 2. And now, if I slide in the Dullahan trying to match the bridge position, you will see that this part of the body is much shorter on Dullahan. So if you already play guitar for a while and your hands already know what to do, they will adjust automatically without any problems. But if you're just making your first steps, a difference like this may cause some weird flexion, extension, or supination, in other words, a weird hand position which may significantly slow down your progress and will probably not be good. So if you're just making your first steps with the guitar, I would recommend picking a guitar with a more traditional body shape. Would I change anything in this guitar if I were you? Well, perhaps the pickups, because everything else seems to be fine or not swappable. For myself personally though, I would go for Dunlop strap lock buttons instead of what we have here, to make this guitar compatible with all my straps. We have some space for push-pulls for additional functions, maybe another coil split or something, and I could also modify the 5-way switch to work as the Ibanez Dynamics 10 to have 10 sounds available from this guitar. Well, we have some space for creativity here. Anyhow, I think that's it for today. I hope I was able to answer some of your questions about this guitar. There's also a new function on the channel I should tell you about, the memberships. There's a join button somewhere here below. If you click it, there will be another video talking about it in details. And other than that, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next video. Hey, you've reached the end of the video, and I really appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed it. I actually want to get to know you guys, so before you go, please leave me a comment below, just say where you're from, what is your favorite guitar or guitar pedal, and how you came across my channel. If you want to support what I do, other than Patreon, there's another easy and free way to do that. Simply show this video to one of your guitar friends who it may be interesting to, and share it, the video, not a friend, in guitar groups and communities on social media. There's never too many views, and that would really help me a lot. And other than that, thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video someday soon.